Hello and welcome on WatchesTV, and today we have the pleasure of having Sylvain Berneron with us, and we're going to talk about what we have in front of us, but we're also going to come back on the path to get there. So Sylvain, tell us a little bit about you, and because you're a designer by trade.
Right, so first of all, thank you for having me. I was telling Mark 5 minutes ago that I'm a product of your content because I had the pleasure to look at most of your videos and learn actually a great deal through it. So thank you very much for what you do for us, all the watch enthusiasts. So indeed, I'm an industrial designer by training. My mother was a painter, so she taught me fine arts. I studied fine arts and then industrial design. I started my career in the car industry in Germany, transferred into watchmaking more than 10 years ago through the Richemont Group and then Breitling more recently. I spent 5 years at Breitling as a chief product officer. And 3 years ago, I asked George if I could decrease progressively my participation into Breitling. So I went down to 80% and 50%, slowly allocating more and more of my time into this project. So the brand carries my name. That's a collector's request. As a designer, sometimes it's more comfortable to hide behind a fancy name, and they told me, no, you have to own it. So I was like, okay. And this first project is called the Mirage. It's our first piece. We revealed it on Instagram 6 months ago. We're going to deliver the first pieces in June, and we have a 12-year product plans that I'd be happy to tell you more. I mean, we have a long vision for this.
So indeed, like 3 years ago, you showed me sketches. It was it was very virtual at that moment. Tell us a bit what happened within those 3 years and what is the kind of the fundamental ideas behind this piece, because it's it's a very original product, and with originality comes obviously a few extra difficulties, so please tell us.
Indeed. So the piece is called the Mirage for multiple reasons, but mainly it's the sort of project that should not have existed because it ticks all the boxes of don't do in our industry. First of all, the job that I have at my age, you're not supposed to give up on that, especially not to create a watch brand in 2024. It's not the smartest idea, if I should say. But I'm extremely passionate about watchmaking. This is, I sleep, eat, dream watchmaking. So I had to do this. It was in me. And this piece is my, I would say, dream version of a dress watch. And as a designer, I really like the work of Rupert Emerson and Gilbert Albert, who make shaped pieces. But often these pieces are sometimes mocked in the collector circle, being called fashion watches for their lack of watchmaking substance. Small movement, low power reserve, no finishing. And I also like the traditional watchmaking, like for example Patek 96, Lange 1815, Breguet Classique. These pieces carry the tradition of watchmaking. I like both hands, and I wanted to join some sort of in the middle.
And you didn't want to go down the round route?
No, actually, my goal was to create a new movement, my dream movement. So I started, this piece, unlike any other shaped piece, is shaped around its movement. I didn't start with the case, I started with the movement. So I wanted...
Which is interesting for a designer.
Yeah. And it is the main difference in which this watch is different as a shaped watch, because any other shaped watch, the designer makes a free shape, and the poor watchmaker has to compose with whatever space is left inside, which very often turns into technically heavily compromised pieces for the sake of the style. Here, this movement, I wanted a 3 days power reserve, so I placed a large barrel. I wanted good and stable chronometry, so I used a large balance wheel with 7.5 milligram per square centimeter, which gives you strong inertia, good isochronism. I wanted a direct small second, like a pocket watch, very traditional way of doing it. And I also had this dream to do what is called an inverted end stack. So on any watch that you guys may have at home, the minute hand is on top of the hour hand. And on my watch it's the opposite. So the short hand is on top, which allows me to have a much thinner case profile. And this complication is not something you can add as a module or something. You have to construct it in the main plate itself. which is another reason why we had to create an entirely bespoke movement for this. So in this piece, except the anchor wheel, the anchor, and the spring for the balance wheel, all the other components are actually entirely bespoke for this movement. And the jewels and the screws as well.
Wow.
But
that's okay.
I didn't bother to make new jewels, I'm sorry. But otherwise, it's an entirely bespoke movement. It's a full gold construction as well. So the main plate, the bridges are in 18 karat gold. The dial, the hands, the case, and even the spring bars. Everything is in gold. It's looking back, a very romantic vision of, to me, a dress watch should be a slender case, precious metal, and time only. If I had to pinpoint the main characteristics,
so
I
3
really
years ago,
wanted to
you
go
showed
all
me
in into this direction to have my dream expression of a dress watch.
And from the start, you shared indeed some of your ideas with some collectors. And how valuable has their input been into your vision?
Extremely precious. I mean, it's not a secret. I have their authorization. So we have extremely esteemed collectors such as Ronnie Madvani, Auro Montanari, Laurent Picciotto, Jeff Stein, Fred Mandelbaum. They've been following this project since over 2 years. For the record, Laurent Picciotto is the first guy who pulled the trigger. That was almost 3 years ago now. And he sort of believed in it more than I did at the time. You remember, we had this discussion. I was walking around with my little dummy. So they have been extremely helpful, encouraging, even in the downturns, because sometimes making projects like this is extremely cash intensive. Yeah. This is entirely privately funded. I've invested 15 years of my own savings into this. This is all the money I have. And of course, sometimes you end up into supply issues, the legal issues, resources issues, timing issues. So you have to stay calm and then believe. And once you've committed, for the record, for example, I had to order the movements. The first order was 700,000 Swiss francs. And when I pushed on the button, I had 0 customer. and why I said this project should not be done, I should explain one metric. As a company, big or small, when you make a new movement, you make it round for one good reason, is that if your design doesn't sell, you can reuse the caliber in another piece. And if the caliber is not reliable, you can also keep the case and use another caliber, because you want to protect the safety of your investment. You want to decouple the movement from the casing. Here, the movement and the case are completely married together, which is why the suppliers were... I had some people who told me, look, this is professional suicide, please go home and rethink. You know, it's not a good thing for you. So I pushed through. Nonetheless, I had to be very stubborn to do this. And not only I made a shaped movement, which is not recommended, but and that's the artistic side speaking, I did it in full gold because I wanted to emphasize the philosophical commitment to it. And here we are, we have these pieces. As we speak, we're gonna deliver the first pieces in June, so in a month from now. And we already have allocated 6 years of production, which I would have never believed.
Yeah, well, I remember you were talking about initially kind of small series of like 2 times 10 or something like that, or 2 times 20, I can't remember exactly, but I mean, we're talking kind of reasonable numbers, but things have gone a little bit faster than what you might have expected, I guess.
Yes, so the rate of production, we make 12 of each metal per year, so 24 pieces per year. These pieces are the A series. We're going to produce them for 10 years, so 200 pieces in total. And in 2032, when the A series will be finished, we'll have a B series, which will be an evolution of this piece, but not the same watch. So it's a bit of a more traditional mindset, like a Rolex attitude towards production. I don't want to do revolution, I want to do evolution. Why? Because I think 50 years down the line, it is important that the current product has some sort of lineage with the first one. This is what, in my opinion, builds a good reputation for the brand and also for the after-sales part. I want to provide a good service down the line for our customers.
And you have, I mean, a very interesting playing field already, which is kind of unique and belongs only to you now.
I mean, I'm probably the only, say not stupid, but poetic to the extreme to venture into this. But it is more complicated than I thought it would be.
Well, that's good. I mean, we always need people like that bring a bit of freshness and also have the courage of going down that route, because it's not always that easy, and it's indeed a very important personal commitment to do what you did. Coming back on the watch itself, can you tell us a little bit about some of the finishing techniques that you've used? Because, for instance, on some of the bridges, there is something that is quite, I mean, we don't see that very often, and what it entails. I mean, how difficult was it to go down that route?
So first, when I drew the movement, I had this asymmetric movement to start with, and it took me 250 hours of sketching to find the case shape and the dial architecture. Sorry. And I wanted, because the problem with a shaped watch, you can draw endlessly. It's never over. And how do you decide, okay, this is the shape I want and not this one? So I felt the need to ground the creative work into some sort of pattern. And I was reading books and everything about asymmetry in general. And in nature, every tree, every plant, every flower is mostly asymmetric. And I found that the Fibonacci sequence is the geometric pattern that seems to regulate most of the natural shapes. And I thought, okay, that's very cool, and I'd like to. So I anchored my work into the suite of Fibonacci. And this case is entirely drawn using Fibonacci ratios, which is a variation of the golden number. And then at the back, when it was time to then do the finishing of the movement, I kept relating to Fibonacci. So even the Côte de Genève that are twisted, this is a graphic expression of the Fibonacci motif. On the wheels, you'll find different motifs that look like the bottom of a pineapple or some little holes on some pinions. All these are graphic variation of a Fibonacci sequence, sort of, to keep the momentum also at the back. And when in terms of technique, I wanted to have a nice mix of traditional and modern techniques. I think we are at the time of watchmaking where we can do stuff that our ancestors could never dream of, because we have the machines, we have the precision, we have the knowledge about materials and stuff. So this movement is 2.3 millimeters thick, which for a gold movement is on the edge of as thin as you can go, because gold is softer than brass or to tungsten carbide, for example. And in terms of technique, we have 7 different finishings. The base plate is grené. The top bridges in white gold, so for the second, and the barrel are guilloché. So these they are not made with how do you call it, abrasive pad to make the Côte de Genève. So these are guilloché. It took us 5 tries. Because the problem is when you start to guilloche a piece, you put a lot of tension into the material, and the bridge tends to lift, and you lose the planarity. The bridge doesn't stay flat.
It changes the structure of the piece. Yeah.
Because you put tension into it.
Yeah.
So we had to fine tune and everything. I mean, even Mark at some point told me, "Look, I don't think it will work. Like, can we just move on, please?" So we kept trying to basically changing the depth of the pattern, and he would change the order into which he would do the operations, because the goal is you want to some sort of start on one end, do another side, and cancel the tension into it. If you do from one end to the other, it will lift like this. But if you do one bit, then it balances itself. So these are all some manufacturing tricks that you have to develop along the way. Which goes delay, which goes extra spending, and which relates to the difficulties that we talked earlier in this discussion. And then we also have traditional technique like trait tiré, cerclage, anglage, colimaçonnage, And one modern technique, the ratchet wheel is laser engraved, which you won't find in a traditional watch. And because the wheel is 0.2 millimeters thick, guillochage was not even an option. So
For sure not. For sure not. Yeah. So you're at this time where you're leaving the world of developing things. It's a new phase for you and the company and the brand. How are things going on that side?
very, very good. We have, when I started this project, I asked myself a question. I was very scared to start a watch brand in 2024. I was like, the market is extremely saturated. Now we are 2 years down the line, the market might even be contracting a little bit. So I always ask myself to the question, why do I need to create another watch brand? And I could have a good goddamn answer to this. Otherwise, it's not worth it. So I have a 12 years product plan in mind with one launch per year. So effectively, I've already started 6 months ago the development of a second caliber, fully bespoke again. And we're gonna reveal the second piece in October this year. I'm also working on a extremely technically ambitious caliber for the year after. So we've already started the first calculation for that, but it has multiple jumping windows and stuff. I mean, it needs, because this is already very complicated and it's a time-only movement. So you know in the scale of how complicated it can be. That already
exponential.
Yeah, that already took me 3 years to make. So when you increase the level of complexity, I think it's very important to take the time to fail and test to make sure the product is bulletproof when it goes onto the market, because there is nothing worse than spending that kind of money on something, and when it lands in your living room, it just stops working after 2 weeks.
That is not
funny.
Not funny, and just not possible. I mean, you build trust with your collectors, and you need to go all the way. Well, I mean, congratulations to you. I'm really happy that this initial talk that we had a few years back is now transforming into what we have in front of us. I'm happy about the success that you are encountering, and that people are, appreciating all the efforts that you put into it. So all the very best, and can't wait to see that new one for sure.
Yes, in a few months.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's it, and I hope you enjoyed it. And of course, as we end up all our videos, we have to go down the route of Viva Watchmaking! There you go. Enjoy.